anxiety about the unknown.
I could hear the steps walking up the stairs. For reals, I was literally
He had
hiding
all
under
black
the bed.
eyes. There was no light in
All of
his
a sudden,
eyes.
this huge object with lights was on top of us, and it made no sound.
The anguish.
She's probably just worried about the life that she just left, about maybe the house.
The
It
fear.
wasn't like the house itself cracking, but the floorboards next to us cracking.
Yes, this happened.
I decided I'm just gonna blow it off and not pay attention to it. But at some point, I started to not just hearing the noise that was a giant crumbling sheet of paper, but I also started feeling the noise, if that's even possible.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Yes, This Happened. The podcast that gives you, our listener, the opportunity to tell your real-life paranormal story. Max, an artist from El Paso, Texas, makes us consider the question asked many times over. Do buildings hold memories? Are traumatic events recorded within the walls of certain locations? Or are the spirits still clamoring for help to this day? Let's take a listen.
I am an artist, a professor, and I do a whole bunch of other stuff. But I'm going to tell you guys a really interesting story today about something that happened to me personally. And it all starts off when I was applying to grad school. And I obviously got my degree in art as a Master of Fine Arts. And when I applied, one of the things that they said is, if you are going to be applying here, you're going to have to find yourself a professional studio. So I was like, okay, well, I could do it out of my house, I guess. And they're like, no, you really have to have a place for you to work and not have a place at home where you can be distracted by other things. So I decided I was going to go out and look for a studio. I went all over the place looking for a studio space, people's businesses, east side, west side, wherever I could go. I had really, really bad luck finding anything because a lot of people are like, you're crazy, we're not going to rent you a space to do your work. Who wants to do artwork anyways? So I didn't give up. I decided to go downtown. I really love all the history associated to what downtown has to offer. So I went downtown. I walked up and down a whole bunch of different streets, talked to a bunch of people. Each one has their own story. And I end up at this gentleman's shop. It's actually not a shop. It was actually a nice department store that he owned. And I go in, ask for the owner. The owner comes out. I let him know, hey, you know what? I'm an artist. I'm an art student. I'm looking for a studio to create my artwork in. I need to rent it for a few years. Blah, blah, blah. He says, you know what? I don't have anything available, but I'll tell you what, I think my brother does, and he owns another store that's right down the street. I said, okay, I'll go talk to him. So I go and talk to him. The individual's super nice, really cool. He's like, you know what? I really don't have a space that you can do your artwork in, but I have this storage space that I'm not using right now. I actually have a little bit of material that I have in there, but other than that, I'm not using it for anything, so you can use that. And I said, all right, that sounds pretty cool to me. I go, how much do you want before I say that I want it? He said, I'll take $100. I said, $100? That's pretty good. I go, I can imagine it's going to be the size of a closet, I thought in my head, but I'll go look at it.
With a little hesitation because of such a low price, Max followed the store owner's assistant across El Paso Street to look at the studio space. After a couple of minutes of walking and chit-chatting, they finally arrive at the location.
He then goes and opens up this kind of independent door in between two businesses. One I think was a fabric store, and the other one I think was a tennis shoe store. Yeah, tennis shoe store. And he opens up this roll-up garage door, like one of those industrial places so people don't break in when there's riots and stuff like that. So that in itself was kind of ominous, just to see this kind of industrial door open up. When he opens it up, I noticed that had to have been at least 50 stairs going up. This is a pretty tall building, 3 stories if I'm not mistaken. And we end up going up the stairs, which is completely dark and creepy to start out with. But you know what? I need the studio space. I was told that I wouldn't be let into the school, the graduate program alongside a studio. So I decided, all right, I'll take it. We'll see what's going on. So when I do that, we go up the stairs. He opens up the door on the left because there are 2 doors. The door on the right is the storage for the tennis shoe shop. So when you look through that little window, all you can see is just, sky high, full of tennis shoes. He opens up the door on the left. We walk in. Turns out it's not a little, closet. Turns out it's a 4,000 square foot warehouse. And I was like, whoa. I'm going to get this thing for $100, but I really didn't understand what I was getting myself into. Sometimes the good deals end up not being that good a deal. Anyways, so we walk around, got huge windows, really, really nice. Got a bathroom. I can see what used to be a skylight in the center, and that skylight, because it had been dripping probably for decades, had damaged the floors underneath. So there was a huge warp with lifted pieces of wood right in the center of this huge space. So I decide I'm going to take the space. I tell the guy, you know what, tell your boss, here's $100. I'll take the space. I'm about as happy as can be. Go home, figure out what I'm going to do. I start to fill the warehouse with all of my studio equipment, from easels to a place to kind of hang out and sit and watch TV, relax, to a space where I can paint. And I start doing my artwork. Not a care in the world.
Max settled into his new studio and started to refine his talents, painting every day. A couple of months passed by without anything strange happening.
And then all of a sudden one day, I had fallen asleep for a little while in my kind of lounge area, woke up, happy as can be, start painting, and then I start to hear this weird noise. The noise starts getting louder and louder and louder. And for me, the noise can be best explained as a huge piece of paper being crumbled up. And I start to wonder, that's really weird that there's a huge crumbling of paper that has been going on for several minutes. So because I'm a curious guy, I go to all the windows, look around, I go to the front, see nothing. I sit there and stare for a few minutes. I see absolutely nothing. Then I proceed to go to the back of the warehouse, which is huge, by the way. Go to the back of the warehouse. Look out the back window. Again, nothing. Literally, there is nothing going on. And one of the things that I noticed was that I had like this, itch to find out where this was coming from. So I proceed to go out the door, go look through the window from the tennis shoe place, the tennis shoe warehouse on the 2nd floor. I shine a light, don't see anything, so nothing's going on there. I thought at some point maybe somebody's breaking in or something. Nothing's going on there. I go down the 50 stairs, open up the garage, stand out there for a few minutes. The weirdest thing about that is that when I was outside, there was no noise. This really loud crumbling of paper just did not exist. So I was like, okay, cool, maybe the noise is gone. Go back upstairs, go through my door, continue painting, but the noise continues while I'm painting. So at a certain point, I decided I'm going to go look in the bathroom. I'm going to go look under the lifted floor. Maybe there's some rats down there making noise. Nothing. Continued painting. I decided I'm just going to blow it off and not pay attention to it. But at some point, I started to not just hearing the noise that was a giant crumbling sheet of paper, but I also started feeling the noise, if that's even possible. But I felt it and heard it so loud that I started getting these goosebumps all over my body. And I'm getting them right now, just telling the story.
Yes, this happened.
The old warehouse Max has rented to use as an art studio has started behaving strangely. He can't quite pinpoint the origin of an anomalous sound that presents itself only at night and only inside the studio. Furthermore, he has started feeling this unexplainable sound. These strange events convince him that he needs to take a break for the night.
So I said, you know what? I'm out of here. I can't stay here any longer. After about 30 minutes of hearing the noise, I decided to go home. Go home, have a really nice, restful night. Everything is cool. The next day, because I painted there every day, I decided to go back to my studio. But before I go to my studio, I say, hey, you know what? I need to maybe get some answers or something. So I start looking for the owner. The owner's not around. I go next door to the brother. The brother's not around. After I do that, I go and run into the owner of the tennis shoe shop downstairs. And I explained to him, you know what? Something really weird happened to me last night. He's all, what happened? You know, a lot of weird things happen in this place, but tell me about it. So I start telling him the story. The fact that I was in my studio, just relaxing, painting, had fallen asleep, woke up again. And there was this really loud crumbling of paper that was engulfing who I was as a human being. And one of the things that he said really just took me aback, made my hair stand. He told me that what I was experiencing was a fire that had existed, that had transpired about 100 years ago of a hotel that stood where the property that I rented was standing today.
Max rented an old warehouse to use as his art studio while in grad school. Little did he know that not long after that, he would start reliving one of the most terrifying episodes in the city's history. A fire in a hotel on El Paso Street in downtown El Paso, almost 100 years before.
And that fire took the lives of many people, some children, as a matter of fact. And again, that what I was experiencing at that moment was me reliving that fire in my time, which just blows me away. Like, how in the world can I be here? I don't know what this was, maybe 2000, in the year 2000, and actually be experiencing something that happened a century ago. But that's literally what I was experiencing at the time. I couldn't believe that in the moment, that crackling that I heard was not paper, was actually the fire and the wood that was burning. And that really just freaked me out. One of the things that really struck me is how an individual can be in, I guess, two places at the same time, simultaneously, living in the present, but experiencing something from the past. The one thing that I can connect that to is maybe these individuals were trying to make contact with me in the present, trying to pull me into their environment, which was really, really freaky. It really took me aback, and the whole thing just freaks me out to this day. And this is a story that I tell quite often because people are just baffled by the fact that I had this experience. But it's something that I will never forget, for sure.
But what makes someone susceptible to these kinds of experiences? Can anyone experience something like this? Max wasn't expecting it. Yet he was able to perceive very clearly a moment from the past.
One would think, wow, this is an amazing experience that somebody had. Nobody would want to have it, but I did. But truthfully, that isn't the only experience that I've had. I've had so many other experiences, and I don't know if it's something that is inherent in me, where I have more of a connection, or maybe I'm just simply more open-minded, and because of that, I'm able to attract different things. I mean, I'm talking that I have had experiences where I've seen lights in the sky. I've had experiences where I've felt things like cold drafts, and I'm not talking about just drafts. I'm talking about how you walk into a room and nobody else feels this cold, but you absolutely feel this cold within you, like passing through you. I've also experienced through photography lights. I've experienced the Marfa lights, which are really, really cool to experience. And I've just had so many other experiences, which to me tells me that I have this kind of connection with another kind of dimension or universe that exists.
Max's experience, like many others, leaves us with more questions than answers. Did he experience a time vortex? Was a tragic event somehow recorded within the walls of the old building? Or were the souls of the departed still clamoring for help almost a century later? We will never know. Max's testimony remains with us as proof of what could be paranormal events that transcended their dimension to meet us at ours. What do you think? On the next episode of Yes, This Happened. Strange events happening in a house with a sordid past.
The house was really, really dark because it was really late at night. I decided to go downstairs. It was a 2-story house. And I decided to go downstairs for a glass of water. And I remember everything was pitch black because there were no lights on. I had not left any lights on. And I remember looking to my right and seeing this outline of a very large shadow that was darker than the pitch black that was in that area.
An entity set on making its presence known.
I felt this like chill going through my body, and then I decided at that moment that I was not going to let that thing scare me. I decided that I was just going to continue doing what I had to do. So I turned left into the kitchen. I turned on the light, and I got my glass and served myself some water. And I came out again, and I could still feel the presence of that shadow, and I could still make it out as I turned right to go back up to the second floor into my bedroom. But I remember that I felt just absolutely horrified. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it wanted. I didn't know why it was there.
All this and more on the next episode of Yes, This Happened.